The Daxamites were truly fucked. Not a single species in the galaxy would lift a slimy appendage to help them against the Kha'Zix. But they hadn't asked the humans yet. Aaron Dixon gripped his glass of whiskey, knuckles white against the dingy bar. The grimy space station spun slowly, stars twinkling in the viewport. An alien slid onto the stool next to him. Aaron glanced over. Green skin, 4 bulbous eyes blinking sideways, a writhing mass of tentacles. A Daxamite. The alien's eyes darted around, oozing desperation. "You're Aaron Dixon, right? The human, captain of the Dauntless?" Aaron grunted. "Who's asking?" "I am Horus of the Daxamite Remnant. We need your help. The Kha'Zix are hunting us to extinction. They destroyed our homeworld, shattered our fleet. We've begged aid from a dozen species. They all turned us away, even the mighty Galactic Council. The Kha'Zix are too strong, they say. A lost cause." "And what makes you think humanity will succeed where they failed?" Horus leaned closer, voice dropping. "Humans are different. Your kind thrives on conflict, craves the thrill of battle. You do not fear death, but embrace the glory of war. The Daxamites have riches to offer, access to advanced technologies. All we ask is for you to fight." Aaron downed his whiskey in one gulp. He slammed the glass on the bar, wiping his mouth. His eyes glinted. "Son, you've just hired yourself the meanest, toughest, most unpredictable ally in the galaxy. Let me talk to my people. If humanity decides to join this war, we'll make the Kha'Zix regret the day they crawled out of their scaly eggs." The rest of the bar seemed to blur as determination crystallized in Aaron's mind. This wasn't just another job. This was a matter of life and death for an entire species, and a chance to show the galaxy what humanity was made of. He tapped his wrist communicator. "Get me a line to Earth. I need to speak with the United Earth Defense Force. Tell them it's time for humanity to go to war." Aaron sat in the cramped cockpit of his ship, going over the final preparations for the jump to Daxamite space. The UEDF fleet hung in the void around him, an imposing sight of human military might. Just as he was about to give the order to depart, his comms panel lit up with an incoming message. The sender's ID was scrambled, but Aaron had a hunch who it might be. He opened the channel and a familiar face filled the screen. "Zach, what the hell do you want?" Zach Thompson, Aaron's old friend from his days in UEDF intelligence, looked haggard and on edge. "Aaron, listen to me. This Kha'Zix situation, it's not what it seems. There's more going on here than a simple war of aggression." Aaron frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I can't say more over an open channel. Meet me on Arcadia Colony. I'll explain everything in person." The screen went dark before Aaron could reply. He sat back in his seat, mind racing. Zach had always been a paranoid bastard, but he'd also had a knack for sniffing out the truth. If he said there was more to this war, Aaron was inclined to believe him. Against his better judgment, Aaron set a course for Arcadia Colony. It was only a short detour, and he could be back with the fleet in a matter of hours. Whatever Zach had to say, it better be worth it. The seedy bar on Arcadia Colony was a far cry from the pristine warships of the UEDF. Aaron found Zach in a booth at the back, nursing a drink and looking like he hadn't slept in days. "All right, I'm here. What's this all about?" Aaron asked, sliding into the seat across from his old friend. Zach leaned forward, his voice low and urgent. "The Kha'Zix are just pawns, Aaron. They're being backed by a group called the Galactic Consortium, a bunch of rich assholes from all over the galaxy who think they can control everything from the shadows." "And how do you know this?" "I've been tracking their movements for months. The consortium is funneling money and resources to the Kha'Zix, propping up their war effort. They want to destabilize this whole sector, create chaos they can exploit." Aaron's gut clenched. If what Zach was saying was true, then this war was far more complicated than he'd realized. Why? What's their endgame? Power, control, the usual. But here's the kicker. I think they have someone on the inside, someone high up in the UEDF who's feeding them information. A traitor in the UEDF. Aaron couldn't believe what he was hearing. The implications were staggering. Zach nodded grimly. Watch your back, Aaron, trust no one. And be careful out there, the consortium won't take kindly to anyone messing with their plans. Aaron left the bar in a daze, his mind whirling with this new information. He couldn't afford to be distracted, not now. The Daxamites were counting on him, on humanity. He would deal with the consortium and their schemes later. Right now, he had a war to win. The human fleet emerged from the jump point, weapons primed and ready. Almost immediately, Kha'Zix warships swarmed towards them, their alien shapes bristling with advanced technology. The battle was joined, the void of space lit up by the flash of railguns and the glow of energy weapons. Human ships took heavy fire, their hulls buckling under the onslaught. The Kha'Zix were as formidable as they were ruthless. But humanity gave as good as they got. What they lacked in technological superiority, they made up for in tenacity and tactical brilliance. Human fighters danced around the larger Kha'Zix ships, picking off weak points with surgical precision. Bombers unleashed payloads into enemy formations, scattering their ranks. It was a bloody, brutal affair. Ships on both sides were reduced to drifting wrecks, but slowly, inexorably, the tide began to turn. The human fleet pushed forward, blasting a path through the Zix blockade. Battered and bruised, the UEDF ships took up defensive positions around the Daxamite homeworld. They had made it through the gauntlet, but Aaron knew this was only the beginning. The real fight was yet to come. As the dust settled from the fierce battle, Aaron found himself standing alongside Horus in the war room of the Daxamite stronghold. The human and Daxamite leaders pored over star maps and tactical readouts, searching for any weakness in the Kha'Zix forces that they could exploit. During the long hours of strategizing and planning, Aaron and Horus formed a bond of friendship and mutual respect. The human captain listened intently as the Daxamite commander shared stories of his people's rich history and culture, as well as the tragic tale of how the Kha'Zix had ruthlessly invaded their homeworld and driven them to the brink of extinction. It was during one of these conversations that Horus revealed the existence of Nexium, a rare and precious mineral found only on Daxamite worlds. "It has the potential to change everything," Horus explained, his voice filled with a mix of hope and sorrow. "With Nexium, we could have developed technologies that would have allowed us to defend ourselves against the Kha'Zix. But now, it may be too late." Aaron's mind raced as he processed this new information. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place. The consortium's interest in this war, the Kha'Zix's relentless aggression. It all made sense now. They were after the Nexium. Just as this realization dawned on Aaron, alarms blared throughout the stronghold. The Kha'Zix had launched another attack, but this time it was different. A small infiltration team, led by a notorious operative named Zorthax, had breached the defenses and stolen a sample of Nexium. In the chaos of the attack, Horus was captured by the Kha'Zix, who saw him as a valuable bargaining chip. They broadcasted a message to the Daxamites, demanding their surrender in exchange for their leader's life. Aaron knew he had to act fast. He gathered his most trusted crew members and hatched a plan to infiltrate the Kha'Zix command ship and rescue Horus. It was a daring mission, fraught with danger at every turn. The human strike team fought their way through the ship, facing fierce resistance from the Kha'Zix warriors. The corridors were filled with the sounds of gunfire and the screams of the dying. Aaron pressed forward, driven by his determination to save his friend and ally. In the end, they found Horus battered but alive. They managed to free him and fight their way back to the Dauntless, but the cost was high. Several of Aaron's crew members had fallen in battle, and the ship itself was heavily damaged. As they made their escape, Aaron's team retrieved a data core from the Kha'Zix ship. When they decrypted it, they found the evidence they needed to confirm Zach's warnings about the consortium's involvement and the presence of a traitor within the UEDF. Aaron sat in the Dauntless's medical bay, his head in his hands as he processed the weight of this revelation. The war had just become far more complicated, and the stakes had never been higher. He knew that the fight ahead would test him and his crew to their limits, but he also knew that they had no choice but to press on. The fate of the Daxamites, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested on their shoulders. And so, with grim purpose, Aaron Dixon reached out to his old friend and ally, Zach Thompson. A secret meeting was arranged on a discreet space station, away from prying eyes. It was there they planned to expose the nefarious schemes of the Galactic Consortium and root out the traitorous mole that had burrowed deep within humanity's own United Earth Defense Force. But fate played a cruel hand. When Aaron stepped onto that station, he found not an old friend, but a cold corpse. Zach lay dead, brutally slain by the shadowy agents of the very enemy they sought to thwart. Rage and anguish warred within Aaron's heart, but he channeled those raging emotions into steely resolve. He returned to the Daxamite stronghold, a plan forged in the heat of his fury. Aaron gathered the remaining human and Daxamite commanders and laid out a daring gambit. They would strike at the very heart of the Kha'Zix war machine, a fortified factory world where the reptilian foe churned out their advanced warships and terrible weapons of destruction. The Daxamite leadership, their spirits lifted by the unwavering support and shining bravery of their human comrades, pledged their remaining strength to this bold endeavor. And so, this desperate alliance of unlikely allies, forged in the fires of war and tempered by shared loss, set out to deliver a fatal blow to their shared enemy. But as their combined fleet approached the looming factory world, they found themselves facing not a vulnerable target, but an overwhelming swarm of Kha'Zix warships. Clearly their plans had been compromised, the insidious mole within the UEDF alerting their foe. Lesser warriors might have quailed in the face of such odds, but Aaron Dixon was a man hewn from sterner stuff. With a snarl of defiance, he ordered the Dauntless to ram the Kha'Zix command ship, even as the rest of the human and Daxamite fleet hurled themselves at the enemy in a fierce onslaught. The impact shuddered through the Dauntless, crippling the ship even as it gutted the Kha'Zix vessel. But Aaron was not yet done. Assembling a strike team of his most lethal warriors, he boarded the stricken enemy ship, blasting and carving a path of destruction to the bridge. And there, amidst the smoke and the ruin, he confronted Kazvox, the ruthless warlord that commanded the Kha'Zix horde. No words were shared, no pithy banter. The two warriors, human and Kha'Zix, simply hurled themselves at each other in a brutal whirlwind of desperate close-quarters combat. Claws raked against armor, fists pounded against scaled flesh, as the fate of worlds hung in the balance of their personal duel. Blood splattered hot across Aaron's face as his combat knife found the gaps between Kazvox's natural armor. The mighty Kha'Zix warlord roared in agony and rage, lashing out with his razor-sharp claws. But Aaron would not be denied. He pressed the attack, his human fury more than a match for the reptilian's brute strength. Around them the battle raged. Aaron's strike team clashed with Kazvox's elite guard in a whirlwind of desperate close-quarters combat. Horus fought at Aaron's side, his Daxamite strength and courage shining like a beacon. Together they forced Kazvox back, step by bloody step. But the Kha'Zix warlord was far from beaten. With a sudden burst of speed he lunged at Aaron, claws extended to rip out the human's throat. Time seemed to slow. Aaron braced for the killing blow. But it never came. Horus threw himself between them, taking the full force of Kazvox's attack. The Daxamite commander fell grievously wounded. Aaron saw red. With a roar of anguish and rage, he redoubled his assault, battering down Kazvox's defenses with a relentless flurry of blows. And then it was over. Kazvox lay dead at Aaron's feet, his reptilian eyes staring sightlessly, but the victory was bitter. Horus lay dying, his lifeblood pooling on the deck. Aaron knelt at his friend's side, cradling him in his arms. "You did it," Horus whispered, his voice faint. "You've given my people a chance." "We did it," Aaron corrected, his voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you." Horus shook his head. "My time is done, but you must lead them now, the Daxamites and your own people. They need you, Aaron. They need your strength." With those final words, Horus breathed his last. Aaron bowed his head, tears mixing with the blood and sweat on his face. He had lost a true friend, a brother in arms, but he would honor his sacrifice. He would lead their people to victory, no matter the cost. Aaron strode onto the bridge of the Kha'Zix command ship, his grief tempered into a hard, cold resolve. The surviving Kha'Zix's crew shrank back in fear, expecting no mercy from this blood-soaked human warrior. But Aaron had other plans. "Your warlord is dead," he announced, his voice ringing with authority. "Your fleet is in ruins, but I offer you a choice. Join us and live. Fight for a better future, for all our peoples, or refuse and face the consequences." To the surprise of all, the Kha'Zix surrendered. The battle was won. But as Aaron stood on the bridge looking out over the carnage of the factory world, he knew that the true war had only just begun. In the aftermath of the battle, as the Daxamite-Human alliance began the grim task of counting their dead and tending to their wounded, Aaron received a message from the UEDF High Command. Admiral Elias Blackwell, a highly decorated officer and a hero to many, wished to speak with him urgently. Wary but intrigued, Aaron agreed to the meeting. He found Blackwell waiting for him in a private chamber, the older man's face a mask of concern and urgency. "Captain Dixon," he began, his voice low, "I'll cut right to the chase. I know about the consortium. I know they've been manipulating this war from the start." Aaron's eyes narrowed. "How do you know this?" Blackwell spread his hands. "Because I'm one of them, or at least I was. I thought I was doing the right thing, that the consortium's vision for the galaxy was the only path to peace and prosperity. But I see now that I was wrong. Their methods are too extreme, too ruthless. They must be stopped. Aaron's hand dropped to his sidearm. "Give me one good reason why I shouldn't arrest you right now for treason." Blackwell met his gaze steadily. "Because I want to help you. I have information, contacts, resources. I can help you take down the consortium from the inside, but you have to trust me." For a long moment Aaron was silent, weighing his options. Then slowly he shook his head. "I'm sorry, Admiral, but I don't trust anyone anymore, least of all a self-confessed traitor." In a blur of motion, he drew his weapon and fired. Blackwell slumped back in his chair, a look of shock and resignation on his face. "It didn't have to be this way," he whispered, as the life faded from his eyes. Aaron holstered his gun, his face grim. "Yes," he said softly, "it did." In the days and weeks that followed, Aaron worked tirelessly with the Daxamite leadership to secure their hard-won peace. Supply lines were established, reconstruction efforts begun, defenses bolstered against any renewed Kha'Zix aggression. But even as the Daxamites began to rebuild, Aaron knew that their true enemy remained at large. The consortium, with its vast web of influence and resources, would not take this defeat lightly. They would regroup, adapt, and strike again. It was only a matter of time. And so, on a clear morning, as the twin suns of the Daxamite homeworld rose over a landscape still scarred by war, Aaron found himself standing before a newly erected monument. It was a simple thing, a stark obelisk of black stone engraved with the names of the fallen. Humans and Daxamites alike united in death as they had been in life. Aaron's eyes found one name in particular, Horus, his friend, his brother. The wound of his loss was still raw, still bleeding, but as he stood there, surrounded by the solemn faces of his crew and his Daxamite allies, Aaron felt a new sense of purpose taking root in his heart. They had won a great victory here, but it was only the beginning. The consortium still lurked in the shadows, plotting their next move, and Aaron Dixon would be there to meet them, to fight them, to bring them to justice. No matter the cost, no matter the sacrifice. He turned to face his crew, his eyes alight with a grim determination. "We've got work to do," he said simply. And with that, he strode towards his ship, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy had in store. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.